right, Project Spark, one of the most interesting titles to come out of the Microsoft conference. I'm here with Jared to sort of just talk a little bit about the game. Jared, thanks very much for talking to us today.
Yeah, I'm glad to talk to you about it. So,
firstly, where did the concept of this come up? Where did it appear from?
So, I mean, we think that creation is just something that's inside every person. They have these ideas in the back of their head. You play other games and you kind of get inspired about what you want to make. So we wanted to take that inspiration and give people the tool set and the ability without like a high barrier to entry, give like really easy tools to use with tons of flexibility so that you could just make whatever you want. And that's kind of where Project Spark was originated from.
How long has it been in development for?
I don't think I can answer that one, unfortunately.
All right, okay, I'll try and find a question you can answer. Okay, well, why this particular choice? I mean, I'm assuming that it is all sort of fantasy-based, really, in terms of the world. Why that?
Well, we think fantasy is extremely flexible, so you can take these props, these things that are kind of shaped in different ways, and kind of combine them together and kind of build whatever you want out of it. And there's just a lot of opportunities for kind of interesting, unique, creative storytelling in kind of a fantasy world, where you can kind of instantly kind of get the idea of the kinds of adventures, the kinds of places you could make in this sort of genre.
I'm assuming by the style of fantasy, this isn't dark fantasy. This is the very traditional, classic, beautifully colourful goblins, knights and stuff like that. Is that sort of like a spin because you want this to be a family entertainment?
Well, we want it to be easy for players to get started with something that's familiar and approachable to people from like all sorts of different audiences, so that totally makes sense. We want kids to be able to pick this up and play it. We want people who just love Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, any other fantasy like IP that gets them inspired to like jump in here and start making stuff. But then the thing is, you can customize this to be any sort of thing you want. So you can go ahead and make like a dark, intimidating, scary fantasy game if that's what you're into, sort of thing.
What's the actual structure when people get the game? I mean, is there pre-made worlds there for people to see and play through? I mean, is there an actual sort of even like a story within that, and then people spread out from there?
Yeah, so Project Spark contains this awesome creation tool set, but it also comes with a game that our team will be building that'll have a story. We're not talking too much about that just yet, but you can probably guess fantasy setting. It's pretty likely.
And is the idea that you will be able to share your creations with the community online, trade and everything like that?
Yep, exactly. So you can share full levels that you build. You'll be able to share different pieces of a level. Maybe you just build like a goblin and you customize some really cool AI on him to give him some interesting behaviors. You can share just that guy, just his brain. You can build a house, gluing a bunch of props together and share a bunch of that. So pretty quickly after this game comes out, there should be tons and tons of different enemies and houses and objects and things that players have made that you can pull from and grab and get inspired by and build your own content out of.
How extensive is the brain option in this game? I mean, how far can you go with that?
So I don't know the exact tile count, but it's around 700 range of different tiles you can add to this game. Fortunately, our tile picker is intelligent and will kind of suggest things that are useful based on the context of the type of thing you're writing. So it's a little bit easier to get started there, but the functionality is incredibly deep. Like we have, if you're already familiar with programming from other like scripting languages, that knowledge will apply to us. We have if statements and for loops and trigonometry functions and vector math and like all sorts of stuff that you can write like seriously legit games with.
And what sort of tutorials are you building into the game? I mean, obviously not just mentioning it there, you can do the whole scope from very simple sort of story games to these more elaborate sort of brain setting. Right. But what have you guys done, or what are you guys doing to sort of introduce people to maybe these more complex sort of states?
Right, so we'll have a set of tutorials that'll come with the game on how to use different creation tools, a bunch of videos that we'll have out there, and there's more things we're looking at that we're not quite ready to talk about to get you into some of the super advanced functionality. But one thing that we've noticed on our team is that it's really common for people to have an idea of something they want to make, and they'll go look out in the community of the things that other people on their team have already made and find something that's kind of similar to what they're looking to make, and they'll just open up that level, open up the brains in that level, and see how someone else went about building that game, and kind of get inspired and learn from that.
What's the limit on the world? Is there a size cap on it?
So in the E3 demos we're showing here, there is a very specific size cap on it. You can customize that a little bit as you're like picking the world size you want. And as we go forward here, there's something we're not quite ready to talk about, but we expect to be able to do quite expansive worlds.
Because what was leading on from that is, would you be able to say create a 10-level fantasy adventure so each world is a separate level in itself, or are you able to sort of divide up one world into those separate sections?
That's a great idea. Unfortunately, we're not ready to talk about it.
All right. Well, We saw from the Microsoft presentation a few little ideas with what people have come up with, like to show the diversity, what you guys can do with it. Is that the idea that, okay, yeah, you've got that fantasy as a starting point, but you guys are really interested to see what the community is going to come up with?
Yeah, we fully expect the community to build things that we never intended or imagined that these tools could do. So things like the different like shooter two-stick things that are almost like 2D with lines everywhere, or to like side-scrolling platformers, just genres that we didn't even really like set up or give them any like specific way to do that. That people just like the programming language, the visual programming language is flexible enough that they can just make anything.
And sort of finally, when can people get hands-on with this? When can people actually get to play it?
So what we can say so far is we'll be coming out in the launch window of Xbox One.
How big's that window?
I don't know.
Listen, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, glad to talk to you guys.